Hey everybody, Coach Stacy and Lynn here. Hey, if you're new to my channel, welcome. Glad that you're here. I see quite a few of you subscribing and I really appreciate it. I just want to reiterate that the whole reason for this channel is to encourage you and to let you know that healing is possible. It is. And I'm here to coach you through these videos. And should you want to contact me directly, the info is always in every video. Reach out if you feel like it. So today, though, speaking of coaching, I wanted to share with you something that happened a couple of days ago. And then I want to share with you a couple of verses from the Bible and one observation. So, how many of you are aware that the coaching industry, should you try to be a coach, that it's not easy to get clients? Okay. I actually read research that says this. I'll tell you what it says here because I have this research. It basically says that only 10% or under actually for a coach, build a sustainable, profitable practice. And there's only about 8%, and that's 8% of the 10% or under, that make over $100,000 a year. Okay. But this is what I thought was really interesting. It says here that the people that actually see the coaches, they actually report a 70 to 80% increase in their life in being better. So I thought that was funny because as a coach, one of the things I get a ton of ads on like how to build my coaching business. And every single ad, without exception, is from another so-called coach trying to sell me, a coach, on how they can build a seven-figure or six-figure income. So why do I bring this up? I bring it up because of the statistics I just showed you, that less than 10% of coaches, certified coaches, actually are successful in making money. And yet, 70 to 80% of the people that actually see a coach report having success. And that makes me wonder, why is it that you have a 70 to 80% success rate with a coach, but coaches have a hard time actually getting clients? And actually I can tell you the reason. It's because in our society, gaining wisdom, knowledge, and experience from somebody who's gone before you is a rare thing. What we pitch in our culture today is we pitch people this idea that you can get rich quick, that you can have a successful marriage without working, that you can lose weight super easy, right? How many, raise your hand on that one, right? How many of you have actually lost weight super easy? Because look at me here. I'm in my pickleball workout clothes. Uh, no, it's not that easy, people. It really isn't. So I was thinking in terms of Christians, what is it that Christians invest in and what is it they look at? I've quoted on here before a very sad, pathetic, absolutely horrible statistic that says that 11,025 reasons were given why Christians don't read the Bible. Like, like they did the survey and they said, why don't you read the Bible? And there was 11,025 reasons given. And you know what? You're going to hear me harp on this, no pun intended on my last name here, but you're going to hear me talk about this because if you have an industry like coaching and there's good, solid Christian coaches who are really biblical and they're very skilled at what they do, but they have a hard time building a coaching business, even though the numbers show 70 to 80% of people who actually use a coach benefit from it, then what is it that people are actually looking for? So, a couple of days ago, I was with somebody, a younger woman, and out of the blue, I just decided to ask her, "Have you ever read the book of Proverbs?" And she's like, "Nope." And I love this woman. I really do. She's a young woman. She could be my daughter. Um, and I go, "Really?" And she's like, "No, I've never read it." Now, this is somebody I know was raised in a Christian home, so that's why I asked the question. And I said, "You've never read Proverbs?" She said, "No." I said, "Have you ever read the Gospels?" She's like, "No." I'm like, "Really? You've never read the Gospels? You were raised in the church, but you have never read the Gospels. You've never read Proverbs, and you've never read the Gospels." And she said, "No." I go, "What have you read?" And she said, "Well, I have read what I learned in Sunday school, you know." And so that made me sad. It made me really sad because having been in Christian media for 20 years, um, and having seen some of what I would consider foolishness under the guise of Christianity for 40 years, um, it's tragic. Yesterday, I sat in on a pastor's pulpit AI uh, meeting, which was 3 hours long. It's a little over 3 hours. It was ran by three men who were all pastors, and then they had all these guests as pastors. And if you want to know what's wrong with the church today, you should watch that summit. Bottom line, they talked about the benefit of AI, and ultimately the goal is to sell AI. Actually, use the product that they're talking about. But what was really unsettling and very sad to me was that the underlying message of all of it was how you can build your ministry, how you could do this, and under the guise of building disciples, right? And the building disciples wasn't, I mean, it wasn't this thing of like, hey, we're going to teach you how to read the Bible in context. We're going to teach you some theology that's solid, teach your church. It was really about how to build a brand, how to build a business in the church, which is what is wrong with the church today. I mean, it really is. Yesterday, also, May 20th of 2025, should you be watching this at a much later date, one of the most beloved Bible teachers of our generation passed away. Her name was Kay Arthur. And I had an opportunity on numerous occasions to meet and talk with Kay because of being in the media, but also I went to Israel a number of years ago, and she led a tour, and she actually signed my Bible at the Wailing Wall at the request of some other women who were like, "You should get her to sign your Bible," and I was like, "Okay." So anyway, not that that's a big deal, but what Kay signed in my Bible, I love because she cited the passage, and my Bible's behind me, otherwise I get it. But she cited a passage that talked about sitting at Jesus's feet. Mary did the better thing, right? Martha was out doing all this other stuff, but Mary sat at the feet of Yeshua. And we don't see that today with many people. Why do you think, I'm just throwing this out, why do you think the disciples and the women who followed Yeshua took time to sit at his feet? Why do you think that is? I'll tell you, because he was the teacher, he was the rabbi. He is God and knows everything. In fact, he was the best person to learn from, especially in matters of life. And that's kind of the point of this video is today I want to just encourage you that, look, if you're a Christian, the best source for your learning and growth is the Bible. It's not psychology. It's not going to a therapist, as wonderful as they are. And I had a wonderful therapist. Um, it's reading and meditating and learning from this word that is the words of life. I want to read you, when I asked my friend if she had ever read Proverbs, um, and part of the reason I asked her was because Proverbs is a very easy book to read. It's just literally 31 chapters, and Solomon, the wisest guy who's ever lived, is the one that penned most of it. Um, and here are cute. He was the wisest person ever lived. You can read Second Chronicles chapter 1 to see that God gave um, Solomon wisdom specifically, and he specifically says that he gave him more wisdom than anybody else in the past or the present of his time or the future. So Solomon is the wisest person besides Jesus, I think, to ever live. And there's 31 chapters of wisdom from Solomon. And so I'm like, hey, if you're going to read any book in the Bible, if you want to start out really easy, read a book of, read Proverbs, because Proverbs has 31 chapters. You could read a chapter a day. So today I read chapter 21. And I want to read a couple of verses that I highlighted in chapter 21. Here's a couple. I keep getting messages. Um, it says here, plans of the diligent surely lead to gain, but all who are hasty come only to loss. So what does that tell you? It tells you to be diligent, people. If you're going to do something, be diligent. The way of the guilty is crooked, but the conduct of the pure is upright. All right. Tells you about character. When a wise person is instructed, he gains knowledge. But then it also says when a mocker is punished, the naive become wise. But when a wise man, a wise person is instructed, he gains knowledge. When a wise person is instructed, he gains knowledge. Not when a foolish person, but when a wise person. Here's a good verse for today's corruption in the church. Doing justice brings joy to the righteous and terror to those who do evil. So what's this verse telling you? It's telling you to do justice, because if you do justice, you're going to have joy if you're a righteous person. Here's one that men like to quote. It is better to live in a desert island than with a quarrelsome, worrisome wife. Don't worry, women. There are plenty of proverbs that really kind of, punch the man in the face and tell him, that he needs to do this. But listen to this here. Imagine this verse here. Whoever pursues righteousness and mercy finds life, prosperity, and honor. All right, so let me ask you something. Are you pursuing righteousness? In other words, are you pursuing doing what is right according to how God defines what's right? If you are somebody who's always looking for help and you're hiring people and all they're trying to do is tell you how to get rich quick or how to lose weight fast or any of these other things that really have nothing to do with building your character, then you're losing out, because the Bible, the wisest guy, he wrote, whoever pursues righteousness, and this is a guy who knows, and mercy, pursuing mercy, finds life, prosperity, and honor. So are you pursuing righteousness and mercy? Here's another one. Whoever guards his mouth and his tongue keeps his soul out of trouble. So there's power in what you say, because if you guard your mouth and your tongue, you're going to keep your soul out of trouble. Now, the question is, we talk a lot about some of the corruption in the body. Are these guys doing that? No, they're digging a much deeper, like, pit. They do that a lot. So look at that. So look at all that we learned today just from reading a handful of verses, and how encouraging it is to listen to a guy, Solomon, who was the wisest guy who ever lived, give you this practical advice. You can get it for free. And it's based on wisdom that God gave him, the wisest person who's ever lived. See, even Grover over there is like, he's like, that was good stuff, Mom. So today, I don't know, maybe this video isn't overly tantalizing to the flesh that you want to have tickled and you want to hear the latest gossip. Um, and and some of it is gossip. I'm going to flat out just say some of it is gossip that's going on with the church. Some of it is really trying to bring righteousness and justice to the forefront. But some is gossip. So you have to be really careful with who you listen to. You know, I once had somebody tell me, and I've heard this before in business circles, they'll say, don't ever take financial advice from somebody who isn't willing to pay your bills. I will say that again. Do not ever take financial advice from somebody who isn't willing to pay your bills. You know, that's a nice way of saying, you know, anybody can tell you anything, but unless they're willing to back it up, you know, be very careful who you're taking your financial advice from. Okay. Same thing with issues of character and faith. If you want to grow in your faith, the Bible says, he who walks with the wise will become wise. How did Solomon know that? Because he walked with the Lord, who was wise, and he made him wise. I know for me, the number one investment that I've ever made in my life outside of buying my home was in therapy and other areas where I've been coached. In getting certified as a coach, um, I have been mentored for over a year by a very brilliant man who has taught me a ton. But he hasn't taught me about really how to make money. That's not what he's taught me about. He's taught me about how to notice patterns, how to help people quicker. That's what I do as a coach. I'm not a therapist. I am not. I've been trained. I got all the degrees, but that's not what I do here. I do not do therapy, but I do coach. And the way I coach will get you results quicker than if you go to therapy for 10 years. And you know what? I have to tell you that I'm just sharing this because um, I don't do the things that all the gurus say. I believe God will direct my steps because his word says so. And I also believe that he'll send me the right people. And the people that I've worked with, it's been kind of funny how they found me. Actually, I'm like, what? How did you find me? Anyway, um, and God knows. I mean, God knows your background and what you need. He knows what I have to offer. And so I'm not worried about that. But what I want to encourage you in is if you're going to invest in anything, be wise and invest in wisdom, counsel, and instruction. And be wise and learn from somebody who's already been there and done that. Um, the wisest thing I think I've ever done myself is learn from my mother's mistakes. My mom made horrendous mistakes, and I'm very grateful that she showed me what not to do. So I am curious about your thoughts on this topic. So if you feel like it, please leave a comment. Let me know what your thinking is. And I will be back again with another video. In the meantime, I hope you have a great day. And if you want to get in touch, all the info will be here in the description. All right. Have a good day. Remember, be wise, people.